Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online, and I've got something a little bit different for you. One of my subscribers, Paula Pascal, had an excellent suggestion this week, and that's that I give my perspective on all of the goodbyes when the Americans leave this week. And so what I plan to do for each of these short videos is just give my analysis on what happened in the last episode or two, and then give my roundup and my conclusion before the tell-all of what I think overall. Very quickly, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. But most of all, I want your comments below at the end of the video. Guys, let me know what you think. And so without further ado, I give you Mike and Ximena. And so as you guys probably know by now, I'd really enjoy sweeping Mike's legs from underneath him. I find him pathetic in the extreme, manipulative, and is a fabricator of the truth who spends rather too much time trying to push the narrative that Ximena is somehow taking advantage of him. And guys, initially, I did give Ximena the benefit of the doubt. I do it so rarely these days, I thought I'd give it a whirl and see how it went. I'll not be trying again. So yeah, I've come full circle on the whole gold digger tag. I started out thinking, yep, she's a gold digger, and then I thought, no, she's been manipulated by Mike. But now at the end of the season, on the balance of all the evidence I have, I've drawn the conclusion that she is in fact a gold digger. But unfortunately for her, she's standing in a copper mine. And guys, I had to watch the last couple of episodes of Mike and Ximena through my bloody fingers. Mike, if you're on the back foot, you have to move accordingly. Mike doesn't realise when he's on the back foot, he takes one more step back. What's wrong with you? He always manages to make an intolerable situation infinitely less tolerable. So anyway, the last time we spoke about these two star-crossed lovers, Ximena had just finished with the weird bug that is Mike. And they had that big showdown in the bar, called it quits and went back home. And so as we know, Ximena doesn't want Mike to stay at the house. But he managed to say to her, can I just stay for one night? And she said, well, okay then. And so the following day, Mike told production he wants Ximena to come to her senses. She has, Mike, and she's effed you off. That's what coming to her senses looks like. And so when Mike arrived downstairs, Ximena returned the wedding and engagement ring to him. But as per usual, Mike tried to refuse to take them, and he said, keep them safe until we work out what's happening with our relationship. And she said for the 534th time, Mike, the relationship's over. We can be friends if you want, but I don't want to go out with you anymore. And Mike stood there inert, and he fixed her with a Putinesque stare. And he said, if you lose me, you'll be losing the best thing you've ever had. Oh, Mike. Mike just gone out with a hitman, a murderer, a prisoner, and all manner of other weirdos. I'm absolutely certain you are not the best thing she's ever had. But Ximena came with her one-liner, and she said, no, the best thing that I've ever had are my kids. And guys, I was literally speechless when he said that. Oh yes, Mike, you legend, you king, all women want you and all men want to be you. We're not worthy to breathe the same air as you. Mike, you're a weird bug, come on, try and keep up. And he reminded her that he kept her and her family safe during COVID, and they wouldn't have had any money if not for him. And guys, when he says things like this, it truly, truly infuriates me for the simple fact that, yes, they possibly did rely on his money to pay the rent, because of course he was offering it. If they didn't have Mike's money, do you think they would all starve? Do you think they'd be all living out in the street? I sincerely doubt it. From what I understand, the sex industry was thriving during the pandemic. OnlyFans literally went wild. So I think at least Ximena would have been able to work. But I'm sure they would have had a plan B to put in action. And it reminds me once of when I was much, much younger. And I had this boss and I was just trying to hand my notice in basically and move jobs. And he more or less said the same thing. If not for me, when you moved to London, how would you have coped? I worked for you. I would have just gotten another job. You dipstick. He thought I'd never have learned how to sell shares without him. Yes, I would. He, just like Mike, seemed to think he was acting out of nothing but pure benevolence. And as we all know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Whatever Mike gave to Ximena, he got paid in kind. I virtually guarantee it. But then Mike undertook what I can only describe as such a bitch move, I couldn't believe it. He said, in front of the camera and almost in fact to the camera, are you going to go back modelling for your adult website? And guys, he really thought he was doing something. Oh, he really doesn't know Ximena. Unlike you, Mike, this isn't shameful to her. And she said, yeah, it's no big deal to me. You met me whilst I was working. And you could tell it totally took the wind out of Mike's sails. He was holding that in his back pocket as some sort of trump card. He played his full house, and Ximena just slaps down a royal flush right on top. And then she explained to production that she worked as a webcam girl and that Mike was an everyday regular customer. And she said that is how they met and that is how their relationship developed. And she also said it was Mike that wanted to keep everything secret about the nature of their meeting. Guys, I believe her. But Mike isn't done yet. He babbles on and says, I can give you opportunities in New York. I can help you to learn English. Mike, how can you help somebody to speak English? You've no idea how to learn a language yourself. What help could you possibly be? And then he said, I can give you opportunities in New York. Take those opportunities, if they exist, Mike, and utilise them yourself. That might be a start. But Ximena told him straight, I don't want to go to New York. I never wanted to live in New York. I only want to live in Colombia. And Mike said, I just don't know why you won't see sense. This just proves my point. You're just using me for money. What? Okay, Mike. And so Ximena said, Mike, just go to a hotel. You can't stay here. And he said, no, I pay rent for this apartment. You can't kick me out. And guys, this just goes to show what a klutz Mike really is. 1, he doesn't pay the rent. He pays money to Ximena. She may pay the rent with it, but that would be rather difficult to prove. Secondly, even if he paid the rent directly, it's whose name's on the lease. And it ain't yours, Mike. And finally, if she ever needed it, you're in Colombia. How do you think it's going to go down? With Ximena's friendship circle of hitmen, of murderers and ne'er-do-wells. Not well, Mike. Not well at all. And Mike raced off upstairs yet again like a naughty little child. And he sat on his bed in a huff, and the producer said, what's the matter? And he said, well, she can be an adult entertainment model for all I care. She's a mean, evil, cold bitch. And so a couple of hours later, Mike comes back downstairs, tail between his legs, and he begged Ximena to let him stay for one final night, just so he could say goodbye to the kids. And when she said no, he said, you're acting so immature. And she said, no, Mike, this is over. And he begged some more, but she refused to relent, and she said, you can't stay here again tonight. You have to go to a hotel. And he said no once more, and he ran upstairs again. But this time Ximena followed him up, and again he refused to leave. And he became quite belligerent. Oh dear, Mike, you never know when it might be time for the hitman. And as the couple argue, Mike calls Ximena stupid, and she took offence to this. You've called me stupid. And guys, I couldn't believe Ximena was so upset over this. Is stupid really a massive diss in Spanish? Maybe it is. I call people stupid on a daily basis, even to my loved ones. And so finally, the girls managed to rid the house of the bug they call Mike. I'm not sure how they finally did it. Maybe they called pest control. And the following day, just before Mike left, he called the house to ask if he could go round and speak to Harold and Yuan. Ximena said no, absolutely not. You can say goodbye to them over FaceTime, and that's what he did. And the truth be told, even though he did bond a little bit with the kids, we all know the real reason for him wanting to go back round there was to attempt to mend things with Ximena, and I think it was very little to do with the kids. And so finally, Mike boarded the plane, and he said in no uncertain terms he will not reach out first, and he said he's done with Ximena taking advantage of him. He's going to wait for her to reach out. Oh, Mike, I think it's fair to suggest you'll be waiting quite some time then. And that, as they say, was that, but of course, it wasn't. No sooner had Mike touched down than he began texting Ximena. He offered to pay rent, and he said, please let me help you out. And of course she said, we're just friends. And he said, I want you to feel secure, I want to help you. But then in the next breath he said he wants to come to Colombia on September the 1st so they can get married. What part of get the F away from me, you weird bug, don't you understand, Mike? And so finally Ximena said, no, I don't want any of your money because we're just friends, there's nothing in it. And then she made the point to Mike saying, you said I want you just for money, here I'm proving you wrong. Oh Ximena, I was born at night, not last night. And guys, I think I know exactly what this girl is doing. Now I just want to give a quick disclaimer. Before I make my final point about Ximena and her character, Mike's an imbecile. Everybody knows that. He has a species-wide reputation for being a loser. And on that, we can all agree. However, even though he's attempting to purchase Ximena, it's my belief she's now taken it too far. She would have let him pay for her plastic surgery, and then she would never have come through with marrying him or continued the relationship. But what I think is happening now is, off camera, she's texting him, She's calling him, she's saying, oh, I don't know what I want to do, I'm just not sure. But then on camera she's saying, you're trying to buy me, Mike. I'm fine without you. I don't want your money. We're nothing. As foolish as I believe Mike to be, I don't believe he's clinging on for dear life with absolutely no bait on that hook from Ximena. And even at the end of this season, after she'd called him and put the phone down, she said, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. Ximena, you know very well what to do. Leave the boy and his pockets alone. But you don't want to, do you? Because you want to have him over there, not bothering you, not wanting sex, and just giving him the odd webcam freebie, which I'm sure he's getting lots of. And you still want to have your rent paid and take the money. You can't have it both ways. Either the money and Mike, or neither. The whole rest of the Western world say neither, but I guess it's up to you what you decide. And just a final word on her family. I initially thought the mum was pushing her into the relationship just for the money. But now I think I've come to the conclusion that she also wanted to have the boys have a father figure. And she wanted her daughter to be settled as well. I think her reasons for wanting them to be together were multifaceted. But I think at the end, even she managed to notice the look on Ximena's face any time Mike was in the vicinity. She had a visceral disgust for him, which seeped from every single pore of her being. And thus, this relationship could never ever work. Yep, so there are my final thoughts on Mike and Ximena. I think they're both as bad as each other. But I do think Ximena thought she might be able to make it work and thought she might be able to fancy him in some small way. But it would seem that Mike is so repugnant to her that all the money in Mike's wallet can't make her change her mind. Guys, let me know what you think down below. So I want your comments to reflect everything that's happened in the season, and overall, what do you think were the motives of these two people within this relationship? Thanks guys, and just before you go, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. Make Ebird a happy Ebird. Press that big red subscribe button and I'm going to get on with my next video. Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Ebird Online and I bid you good day.